Welcome back, Idiot Squared viewers, all 11 of you out there, shout out. Today we're going to discuss what the hell is a human body? Like, what is a human being even? Like, what are we? What are we made of? How many of those things are we made of at different scales? And how many computations does a human body do? This is something I've been interested in for a while. Blows my mind, melts my mind, bends my mind. Polsker, I sent you a short video about the scale of different things in our universe. Do you have it there?
Yeah, guy. I'm just gonna share it right away and fucking just play this video because it's pretty fucking cool.
It's mind blowing. Wow. COVID is little, yo. That's crazy, hey? So we'll provide the link to that video in the description so you can go and watch it for yourself. But isn't it mind-blowing, the scale of things?
Yeah, it's crazy, guy. And like, doesn't that first thing look like a polar bear at first? Like when I first saw it, I thought it was a polar bear, dude. Straight up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Unfortunately, I already knew that it was a tardigrade, so I didn't get the polar bear thing, but it does look like a cute little bear.
Yeah, it does. But I'm kind of surprised that the sperm is bigger than a red blood cell. I would have thought red blood cells were bigger than that for some reason in relation to other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But no, the red blood cell's way littler than a sperm.
And the COVID virus mad small. So no wonder why those masks did such a great job saving us, hey? Because I mean, there's no way that thing is getting through the mask. You know what I mean?
Well, yes. I tend to agree. I think, look, a good mask would provide some protection, definitely. If it was clean and you just put it on and there was a good seal, it's definitely going to reduce it's going to make it a bit harder for it to get through. You know what I mean? But that's a whole nother discussion, sir. Let's not get sidetracked.
Sorry, guys, sorry.
So isn't it fascinating? But it's fascinating, right? Like how just the scale of things in the human body. Like, we are one, you identify as Polska as one person. I identify as Ruben as another person. But we're not just that person. Like, we're made up of so many different things across so many different scales. And one crazy thing about the human body is there's actually more bacteria on the human body than there are cells.
Well, what's that you said to me? There are like 300 trillion or something bacteria that live on the human body?
Roughly or approximately, based on the average human, which is like 70 kilograms, there's about 30 trillion cells, okay? So 30 trillion cells make up the average human body at about 70 kilograms. But there's about 90 or 100 trillion bacterial cells. There's about 3 times more bacteria than there are cells.
That's kind of
that freaky?
Yeah, that is wild. That is wild. For some reason, it is freaky, but it doesn't freak me out. Like, I've seen some people's reactions to just seeing like, oh my God, I have like this bacteria living on my face, because there's certain bacteria that live all over your face, right? And I've seen people have reactions to seeing that and understanding it, and they're like really like taken back by that. For some reason, like I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I don't really give a fuck. But also, like, bugs don't really bother me either all that much. Like, I don't know. Sometimes so I live in Colombia, right? We have mad fucking cockroaches everywhere. Like, you don't see them sometimes, but they're there, guy. They're fucking all over the place. You know what I mean?
Stealth.
And these motherfuckers are huge. Not like the cockroaches in Thailand, though. Those are the biggest cockroaches I've ever seen. But anyways, they don't like bother me per se. Like, I remember this one night I was sleeping and a cockroach climbed onto my neck, dude. And it woke me up, and it freaked me out, but I went right back to bed. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, whatever. But I see other people reacting.
It's the jungle.
Yeah. It is what it is, guy. But I see other people reacting to cockroaches, and they're like, it's like their day's over, bro. Like they're fucking losing their shit. You know what I mean? Screaming, and I don't know. I don't have that with bugs, so I don't give a fuck if there's like trillions and trillions of bacteria all over my body right now. It is what it is.
I'm kind of glad it doesn't bother you too much because they're fucking there. There isn't much you can do about it, you know? Like if you actually got rid of them all, you probably wouldn't be able to function as you do. Like your body would probably start to break down. There's a symbiotic relationship to a certain point with all those bacteria. Like, everyone's now become more aware of the gut and the microbiome and the bacteria that live in there and the different environments and how they can influence the growth of different bacteria and how that can affect your mental state, your health, your physical performance, your sleep, all sorts of different things. So, yeah, you kind of got to accept the fact that there are a shit ton of bacteria on us all the time. The craziest thing is if you look at some of those bacteria under microscopes and you see like the structure of these things, like they look like legit alien spaceships, some of them. Like it's bonkers. Like there's this crazy, it doesn't live on us, but there's this crazy virus, but different to a bacteria, obviously. But there's a crazy virus that legitimately looks like a spaceship, right? Like it's like this cylindrical thing and it's got these 3 long legs that sort of stick down from it, and it will land on its host. And then it will send down this little like probe that like drills through the cell and then like will splice its DNA into the host DNA. It's just like bonkers stuff. But this is all happening at like this tiny scale that we don't have access to with our eyes and our typical visual system. We need to use microscopes and the rest of it to enhance and get down to this level. But yeah, roughly what I wanted to do today was just pretty much go over like what a human being is. Like, what are we made of? How many of those different things are we made of across different scales, right? Across different abstractions. And then just do like a bit of an exploration into that because I think it's pretty fascinating. So I've got a couple of like rough calculations up that we can go through. So I was interested in understanding how many atoms are in a human body. So just off the bat, do you have any sort of idea or estimate as to how many atoms make up a human body?
Okay, I'm just going to assume that an atom is smaller than a bacterial cell. I'm just going to assume that.
Yeah. You don't have to assume it. You can know it, bro.
So I'm going to guess.
Bro, what do you think bacteria made out of, son?
No, you're absolutely, yeah. Guy, the podcast is called Idiots Squared, all right? So. Yeah, fuck yeah. So, if.
That is one of the safest assumptions I've ever made. Oh, man. That was a good one. Oh, that got me crying, bro.
Yo, nice guy. Nice. Yo, now I'm glad. It was worth it. All right. So I'm thinking, would you say 100 trillion bacteria?
Yeah, 100 trillion bacteria.
Yeah.
So atoms are smaller than bacteria.
Yeah. All right. My guess is going to be, it's going to be like a billion times smaller than what? Than bacteria.
Yeah.
A billion times smaller than bacteria.
So a billion times more?
No.
Than bacteria?
No, smaller. Like atoms are 100 billion times smaller than bacteria. Am I saying that right? I feel like I'm saying all fucked up. I don't know what number that would be, guy. We got to add like 9 fucking zeros to 100 trillion?
we'll go through this, but so just on roughly, like if you were to pick a number of atoms, like like we're all made of atom, like if we go down the scales, we can be like, oh, we're made of organs, organs are made of cells, cells are made of atoms. Roughly, how many atoms do you think are in a human body? Like it's just a ridiculously big number, obviously. Like
okay, I'm going to say
a billion,
a billion, 100 trillion. That's what my guess is. A billion, 100 trillion, guy. So whatever the fuck that is.
All right. Well, we'll look into it, okay? We'll look into it.
I thought you had the answer, guy. I thought you had some number to share.
I definitely do have a number to share. So it's just recovering.
Is it a billion, 100 trillion though? Is that what it is?
No. I'll tell you how to say the number in a second. So roughly, we can go through and do a couple of calculations. So the average, we'll just use the average human being, which is like 70 kilograms, okay? And then we can know that a human body is primarily composed of just a few different elements and then trace amounts of other elements, okay? So by mass, it's about 65% oxygen. It's about 18% carbon. It's about 10% hydrogen, 3% nitrogen, and about 4% other elements by mass, okay?
What are we talking about? What are you referring to?
The human body.
Oh, the human body, fuck. I thought we were talking about atoms, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah, we are.
Atoms of oxygen, atoms of carbon, atoms of hydrogen, atoms of nitrogen.
Gotcha.
So on average, it's about 65% oxygen. We are about 65% oxygen by mass. We're about 18% carbon by mass. We're about 10% hydrogen by mass. And we're about 3% nitrogen by mass. And about 4% of other elements make up the last 4% of our mass, okay? So using the average mass and the percentage, we can calculate the mass of each of these main elements in a human body, all right? So we need to calculate the number of atoms for each element. So we use Avogadro's number, which is 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms over a mole, and the atomic mass of each element to find out how many atoms of each element there are in the human body. So we can sum the numbers of atoms. So we can do a bunch of calculations. We get mass of oxygen in the body is about 45.5 kilograms, okay? Mass of carbon in the body is about 12.6 kilograms. We have the mass of hydrogen in the body is about 7 kilograms. And the mass of nitrogen in the body is about 2.1 kilograms. So we have about 2,844 moles of oxygen, 1,049 moles of carbon, 6,944 moles of hydrogen, 150 moles of nitrogen. And so that ends up to be about 6.62 times 10 to the 27 atoms in an average human being.
Okay, so it's more than what I was saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
if you put 100 in front of your billion, you would have been closer.
I'm just realizing, sorry to interrupt, I'm just realizing what the fuck this pod is about, dude. I thought when you said, yo, what is a human being? I thought we were going to talk about some like mind shit, some like emotional shit, some like, identity shit. I had no idea that we were literally going to talk about what is the human body. So,
well, we're going to do both, but that's the only way I think you can do both, right?
All right. I like it. I think it. I never looked at those numbers. So it's interesting to know that if you think about that in weight, like the kilograms, like that's nuts, dude. Like that much hydrogen, that much nitrogen, like that's, if you concentrated all that nitrogen, like that's how many kilograms? 7?
Of nitrogen?
Yeah.
It's about 2.1.
Oh,
we're about 7 kilograms of hydrogen, bro.
Like
hydrogen, that's a lot of power.
That's fucked up. Yeah, and that's fucked up to think. That's a lot of power. Yo, that's true, right? That's mad funny. If you think about that in weight, though, that's mind blowing.
It is. But the next mind blowing thing is if you think about it in terms of most atoms. Like atoms are like 99.99% empty space.
That's a mind.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a complete mind fuck because they're already so goddamn small.
Yeah, and they're mainly empty space, and yet we're made up of essentially 7 times 10 to the 27. So I'll just give you a way to say that number, right? So another way of saying that, right? So if we say we just approximate it up to 7 times 10 to the 27 atoms in the average human body, that is 7 billion billion billion.
7 billion billion billion.
Yeah.
Damn. That's wild. I guess it's like a really interesting thing that we have the vision that we do. You know what I mean? Like the perspective that we have on life, because we can't see any of these atoms. We can't see any of these bacteria. Like under a microscope, yeah. But I mean, our eyes, like day to day. Like, could you imagine if you could see some of these bacteria? Like how, like, I guess it would be our new normal, but it would just be so strange in comparison to what our eyes are able to see now. Right? Because
Absolutely.
our world is like, it's just like this, like, our world only exists based on our perspective of it. But the world is so different if you zoom out or zoom in that it's a completely different world. It's so wild to think about that. Like, we're only seeing what we're seeing because our eyes are like limited to this, to whatever
scale.
To the scale.
A specific scale.
Yeah.
And we only have a certain range within that scale, but we can use technology and we can use other things to enhance our ability to go down or up scales.
The neuron looks really fucking cool. Like when they showed the picture of the neuron, like I was like, yo, like this, it looks badass. Like some of them are kind of cute, some of them are badass, some of them look like they were made in the lab. It does though, doesn't it? Like if you look at the structure, it looks like
it's like some human fucking made that.
Yeah. It's like a pom-pom. It's like a perfectly shaped like pom-pom sort of kind of thing. Like gooey, I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it was evolved or bred to attack.
Yeah. That's not funny.
That was a good joke, guy. I appreciate that. That was a nice one. So yeah, isn't that crazy? Like there's 7 billion 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 atoms in the human body. That's a lot of atoms, right? Like that's just a ridiculous amount of atoms.
Yo, Rubes, you there, guy?
Have I lost you?
The last thing I heard was 7, or no, you said like billion, and then it cut off.
Okay.
You're talking about cells.
Yeah, I was just saying, isn't it crazy that there are like 7 billion 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 atoms that make up an average human, right? Now we can like, if you're bigger, right? So like I'm 120 kilos, right? So I'm almost double that, right? There's going to be way more. I've got way more atoms.
Yo, that's a flex, guy. Yo, that's a flex. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to flip this shit, right? So anybody that's like massively obese, right? You motherfuckers are hoarding atoms. Stop hoarding atoms.
Yo,
okay?
these fucking atom hoarders, dude. Terrible, dude. They got too many fucking atoms.
Exactly. Save some atoms for some other people, yo.
Goddamn greedy fucking atom hoarders. Yeah. Lose some weight, yo. Get in the gym, get your shit together, and distribute those atoms because we need to share. We need things to be a little bit more equal. Feel weird saying that now, since like this new this weird like liberal communistic shit's going on, and I feel like weird about like saying equality because I don't know. It's like one of the things like it's one of the like what words that they use?
One of their words.
Yeah, one of their.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways,
so if we look at that, we think there's 7 billion 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 atoms in your average human body, right? And we look at the amount of bacteria, right? So then we can go on the human body. A lot of people think that your skin is the outside of your body, right? But your insides are actually outside your body. So if you go, we've discussed this before a few times, but if you go in your mouth, inside of your mouth is actually outside, external facing, right? You go all the way down your esophagus into the stomach, that's external facing. go into your digestive system, that's external facing. So it's an external surface. So if we sum up the total bacteria on your skin, plus the gut bacteria, plus your mouth bacteria, right? We can get a decent calculation. So the approximate total number of bacteria on the human body, including the skin, gut, and mouth, would be roughly 1.001 times 10 to the 14, or approximately 100 trillion bacteria. So 7 billion is bigger than 100 trillion.
Damn. I bet you there's mad gut bacteria. I bet you the gut is filled with bacteria. I bet you there's more bacteria there than anywhere else on your body. Or no, actually on your skin, probably, right? Would be the most?
Well, let's just, let me just have a quick look here.
I'm just assuming. I have no it's not an educational guess whatsoever. It's just like straight up like a guess, a pure guess, guesstimate.
Total gut bacteria is estimated to be around 10 to the 14. Total mouth bacteria around 10 to the 10. And then total skin bacteria is about 10 to the, got here. So there's about 10 to the 8 or 100 million bacteria on the skin. But that could be a bit more. Yeah, 10 to the 8.
Fuck yeah. I guessed right, guy. Yeah. That gut bacteria.
Well, yeah, so there's definitely more in the gut. It's very dense. But isn't that crazy, right? So there's a shit ton of atoms that make us up. There's a shit ton of bacteria that make us up. We discussed it before, how there's about 10 to the 27 cells that make us up. And like, it's just bonkers across these scales when you think about it, right? So you have atoms, which are these, the elementary particles, okay, that come together to make us up. And it takes a ridiculous amount of these things to make us up. And we're largely like 4 elements. And then we've got trace amounts of all these other ones, including like uranium and random other stuff. But it's only a very, very, very tiny part of us. But it's also really important, right? Like, does that not just blow your mind? The scale of these things?
Yeah, like it is mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. For some reason, I was thinking about the Magic School Bus. Did you watch that show? Was that popular in Australia?
I don't think so.
Maybe I'm saying the title wrong. Might be something Magic School Bus. It was like this show for kids where there was this what's the word? Extravagant. I don't know what the proper word is, but yeah, I'll just say extravagant school teacher. And she would round up all the kids and take them on a field trip into the Magic School Bus, and they would shrink down into, like a bacteria size, and they would go on different adventures, looking into the body and shit. Cool. was some of them. And it was cool because you were like learning about like science shit, but it was actually a mad entertaining show. And it was dope. Like, you would see like, I think, some of them were about bacteria. Some of them were about like maybe blood cells. Just like different like shit in the body and how like the body works. It was fucking cool, man.
I do remember seeing something similar to that when I was growing up. I can't remember the name of it if it was the Magic School Bus.
Oh shit, I just moved the picture. Oh, fuck. What did I do? Yeah. I should have gone I'll get a picture on my computer. Like for when I edit it.
Yes, I do remember that show. That was a wicked show.
Yeah, dude, it was. It was actually good. It was like the only show that could trick me into learning,
Well, yeah, learning semi-productive, decent things.
Only 2 seasons. Sorry, only 2 seasons.
Yeah, they probably canned it because it was too good.
Yeah, kids were getting too smart.
Yeah. Gotta
Dude, there's
dumb 'em
not
down,
many
son.
episodes. I can't believe this. Season 2 has 8, 9. Oh, wait. Okay, season 2 has 13 episodes. And season 1 has 13. All right. That's a decent amount, actually. 26
Yeah,
episodes.
26 eps. That's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
So when you think about being a human being, right? Do you think it's your cells that define you? Like your cells sort of make you up, right? Like, is that sort of how you think about it, or how do you think about it?
Well, like, what do you mean by define you? Because when you say that, I think about like identity shit, like who you are as a person. So what do you mean by define?
Well, would you be you if you had if you were made up of different cells? Like if you had a different, like you think about someone
Yeah.
they're not you, right? And
Yeah.
they've got similar cells to you, but they're all combined together in a different way based off, like
Right.
genetics and environment and life experience and all those different things. But there is a you, like you when you were a kid, okay, you weren't, before you were 70 kilos, right? You were still Polska. But then over time you grew, which is more cells, right? More atoms that you've sort of sequestered or harnessed to be a part of you. But you still identify as Polska, right? Like you still remember being the little kid, even though that little kid's cells have probably been replaced many times. All right. There's a good, I don't know if it's a parable, but it's a good little story called The Ship of Theseus, which is the ship of Theseus.
The ship of Theseus?
Yeah, Ship of Theseus. Hold on one second. I'll just get it up.
So I imagine that it does define you in a way. I imagine that, like what you said, there's like so many factors that I guess dictate what bacteria would be on you. Like there's for sure some genetic factors that would alter probably maybe not necessarily like the type of bacteria, but the ratio of bacteria. Like we know that to be true in the gut, right? When you have like an imbalance of gut microbiome or gut bacteria, your whole body doesn't function the same. And there's many sicknesses that are associated with bad gut bacteria. One of them actually being autism, which I recently found out that autism is somehow linked to an imbalance of gut bacteria. So therefore, people who have autism can supplement with what's it called? Forgetting the fucking name. You find it in like kefir, and you find it in
probiotics.
Yeah, probiotics, right? So yeah, just like a side thing, like you can there's been studies done showing some sort of improvements in autism when there's the proper probiotic supplement given to patients with autism. But that's like a whole nother pod about which ones work, which ones don't. But anyways, so I imagine that a genetic factor plays a huge role. Inner, like gut microbiome, probably outer microbiome as well. Like for some reason, I get like really sweaty and greasy really easily. Like if I don't shower every day, I'm so fucking greasy and like sticky the next day that it's like absolutely disgusting, right? Whereas my wife is like the same. Like she doesn't get sweaty or greasy at all. So I imagine I'm just filled to the brim with whatever bacteria would be feeling my sweat and my grease. You know what I mean? Because the shit that I produce is fucked. Like, bro, if this by the way, this shirt is not white, it's like a blue, but if this shirt was white, I'd be able to wear it, I don't know, maybe like 10 times and then it'd be yellow. Like, I don't know what
what did you just fucking say? This shirt isn't white, it's blue? Motherfucker, that looks white as.
I know, because so I saw in the camera, I'm like, fuck it. It actually, it's not, it looks white, but it's actually not. I don't know if the color adjustment, because of the red light or something that I have, is maybe fucking with the camera, or that other light is making it look white, but it's actually blue. But anyways, so you know what I mean? Like I probably have some weird ass bacteria that's like on my body that other people might not have the same amount of or something. So anyways, sorry, I'm dragging this point on. I'm just saying that the ratios would be different based on genetics.
Yes.
Right.
Well, potentially. it's been coming out recently that genetics isn't as big, but it does play a role, right? It might not play a huge role. Environment, lifestyle, other factors might play more of a role. But it does play a role, that's for sure. And so does your environment, so does what you eat, and a whole host of other things. Even your sleep and other things like that will play a role as well. What you're exposed to, et cetera, et cetera. So when I pose a question, like, is it your cells that make you a human? You know, like that's what DNA is meant to code for, right? Is what cells to produce. So how much of you is just the cells versus how much of it is the cells plus the bacteria? Do you kind of get what I mean? Right? Like we can't take it away that we know that there's like, 3 times more bacteria on our bodies than there are cells, which is crazy because, we think of ourselves as being humans made up of these cells. But at the same time, we have like 3 times the amount of cells in bacteria, right? There's a huge amount of bacteria on our bodies.
Okay, yeah. So I see what you're saying. Like, what is the larger percentage of what makes up a human? Bacteria or the cells, right? Basically.
Well, it's just interesting to think. I don't think many people would think that they are made up, like that on their body is more bacteria than there are cells. I think that most people would think that being a human, you sort of defined by the fact that you are made of the cells you're made of in the combinations that they are.
Cells are probably bigger, right? So they take up more surface area. So I think that maybe that's how we could maybe understand it, that humans are made up more of a cell, not made up of like number of cells more, but that most of the human body would be cells in comparison to bacteria, just because of the surface area, which they would cover in comparison to bacteria. It's
by mass, yeah. So you think there's more mass of human cells than bacteria? I don't think you'd be correct in saying that.
No.
Yeah, no. I think you are.
Oh.
I think that would be correct. Yeah, we'd be there'd be more human mass than there is bacterial mass. So yes, even though there's more total number of bacteria, the total mass is less than the amount of cells. Like, so the cells have a higher mass than the bacteria does.
You don't really hear too much about how bacteria is helping the human body. Like for some reason in science, the cells is pushed onto us, like growing up. Like when you go to school, like most curriculums teach science, they talk about cells and shit, but you don't really get much of an education in bacteria. You know what I mean? Unless you like
correct
and actually want to study that in university or when you do a doctorate or something like that, that's when you would get more into it. But growing up, there's no talk about bacteria and its function and why it's important at all, actually. It's kind of weird, right?
It's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Considering it seems to be a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, and because there's so much bacteria on us, it seems just as relevantly important to study that like it does cells.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is this sort of more, zooming out from things, not zooming in so much, zooming out and looking at the space that those things interact in and coexist in. So I mentioned that ship of Theseus, right? So the ship of Theseus is a thought experiment.
Is a thought experiment?
Yeah, so it's a thought experiment about whether an object which has had all of its components replaced remains the same object. According to the legend, Theseus, a mythical Greek founder king of Athens, rescued the children of Athens from King Minos after slaying the Minotaur, and then escaped onto a ship going to Delos. Each year, the Athenians commemorated this by taking the ship on a pilgrimage to Delos to honor Apollo. A question was raised by ancient philosophers. After several centuries of maintenance, if each individual part of the ship of Theseus was replaced one at a time, was it still the same ship? So think about it. Like there was a ship originally built, okay? And then over the years, so the ship was made of wood. So over the years, little bits would get damaged or need to be repaired. So they would replace each part of the ship with a new part. So is that ship still the same ship?
Interesting. like if 100% of this ship is replaced with new material over the years? Like, is the story like an absolute thing, or is this sort of like gray area? No, like not all of it was changed. I guess for it to make sense, all of it, yeah?
All of it. And so the reason why this is, don't worry, this is a philosophical sort of thought experiment that has, yet to be resolved, so to speak.
Yeah, well, let's watch it though. Let's break it down though. Let's see if we can solve it though.
So the reason I mention this is because the human body does the exact same thing. So every few months, your body will be made of entirely new cells, right? So not the same ones you started with, but entirely new ones. Yet you still identify as Polska, right? Like the cells that you were when you were a kid aren't the same cells anymore, right? They've been destroyed and remade multiple times. You know what I mean?
I love this question, by the way. This is dope. This is dope. I'm glad I blazed for this pod guy. This is good. So, all right, because I was about to say, because your DNA is sort of triggering a lot of this to sort of happen, right? And like cell replication and regeneration and creation in some sense is normal, right? And like the workers repairing the ship are essentially provided the same function like our body provides for us, right? So we can't really say that the ship is a different ship. It's because it still has its identity, like humans have their identity. So the ship maintains its identity even though 100% of it is not the original material, just like human bodies. And it's humans, it's our way of like viewing the world and interacting with the world that we do that. We identify ourselves and we identify things as well. And, this belongs to me, or this is mine, or this is like, this ship from this era, it's been on this many voyages, it's gone through this. Like it has an identity as well, which we've created. So in the human sense, it's still the same ship. But in like a scientific sense, I guess, I don't know what I would say, or
at an atomic level.
Yeah, it's not, because it's been completely changed. So same thing with humans as well. So it's only this identity that we're creating that exists, but we are different. I'm not the same Polska I was, when I was born, and that's just a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's wild, dude. That's wild.
Yeah.
See, yeah. Oh, I almost started speaking Spanish. I was like,
go do it.
See. That's mad funny.
It is wild, right? Like you are most certainly not the same person, but there is some overlaps, right? There are some consistent, maybe behaviors or loops or different things, but you are definitely a different person now. But your identity still remains the same. So you can have this identity that persists across time and construction. It's a bonkers thing, but you're exactly right in saying like it's a human construct. It's what we do. It's efficient, right? And part of it is because we can't actually see all the different atoms, right? Like if we could see a very detailed picture of the ship of Theseus, we would see that it is actually different in all of these different ways from the original construction. After every piece has been replaced, unless it was replaced with identical stuff, it would be obvious to us that it was different. But because we don't see at that fine grain, that high resolution image of atoms, right? We just see it at a coarse grain. We can just go, oh, that's the same ship.
Yo, what about this guy? What if we could identify ourselves and things by the bacteria, like the bacterial structure or the bacteria in some way? So, all right, just hear me out, right? So let's just say that all of our cells are regenerating, right? So we are completely new cells. So we would say, yeah, we're just completely different now. But what if our bacteria maintained the same? Like, what if that bacteria was replicating, but it's still the same type or ratio or something bacteria? Maybe there's like some sort of code in a certain type of bacteria that would follow us along throughout our entire lives, just like it would the ship. because the ship had original parts interacting with the new parts. So the original ship's bacteria might interact with the new ship's parts bacteria and change that bacteria, or sort of, just transfer over there. And another new part comes in, same thing. And then once the ship is completely made with new material, the original bacteria from the original ship still exists somewhere on that ship. So we're identifying the ship by this bacteria.
Yeah, no, I love where you're going with that. So are you saying that the ship originally had a certain bacterial colony on it, right? Or bacterial composition?
Yeah.
And then over time, as the different parts get exchanged, that bacteria essentially populates that new part. And so that even though the ship has been, the atoms of the ship have been physically replaced, the bacterial colony would still be the same bacterial colony.
I don't think the colony would be the same, because the colony would be changing based on environment, like dramatically. But maybe there is like one type of bacteria, like a very, how do I put it? Like a universal bacteria, or like a specific type of bacteria that's associated with, no, because then each ship would have, I don't know, guy. I don't know. It's like a fingerprint. Maybe like bacteria works like a fingerprint does. So if you understand the composition, maybe the composition might change, but it still has like a similar fingerprint. Maybe a certain type of bacteria. That's
essentially what I was getting at. I was more like, I don't mean the bacteria is still the same old, but like the composition of bacteria, the different types and species, or like strains of it, would be the same as the original ship. Maybe that's what persists over time.
Right.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, maybe.
Isn't that an interesting way to think about it? Like even with humans, you think about, okay, so we can look at, a human, we can look at it across all these different levels. We can go down to the atoms and figure out, okay, there's this many of each atom that make up this person. But then also looking at the bacterial structure, right? Because everybody's bacterial structure will be either like, unique or similar in some sense. And looking at how that might affect different things in life and how that might change over time, right? So initially when you're born, you'll have, that's part of the vaginal birth process is getting you get populated with bacteria from the canal, from the vaginal canal as you come out. And when you're done with a cesarean, you don't get that same exposure to the bacteria in there. So people have hypothesized that could, affect immunity and essentially the growth of the bacteria on and in your body. Or on is the technical term, but yeah.
Crazy. Wow, yeah, I never thought about that.
It is interesting. When we zoom in, we focus in on certain things, we miss other stuff. And it's that ability to zoom back out again and realize, these things coexist across different scales. And I think that's often missed, right? I think that's what you were alluding to earlier. And it's definitely something that's becoming more popular, and people are becoming more aware of it, which I think is a net positive. So with all this stuff, like it's pretty insane when you think about the scale of this stuff, right? And then in Wolfram's model, right, this Wolfram physics project, atoms are incredibly high level phenomena. Atoms exist. So I just get up the scale of an atom. So size and so atoms are pretty big, right? In terms of like scale, like they're not huge. Obviously, there's way huger things, but there's such a vast difference between there's so many scales, right? And the difference between them is just crazy when you have to sort of think about it. So Wolfram says, I'll get this up in a second. Wolfram says that in his model, the tiniest thing in the universe, like the littlest atom of space, right? This tiny little atoms of space could be as small as 10 to the negative 100. So 10 to the negative 100, right? So the Planck length is like 10 to the negative 20 something or 15. Hold on. I'm flunking out on my physics here.
I'm curious what you meant by high level when Wolfram says that atoms are such high level phenomena.
Oh, so I'll explain in a sec. Give me one sec. So Planck length. Okay, so Planck length is around 10 to the negative 35 meters. All right. So that's to the negative 35. Wolfram is saying that in his model, it could be as small as 10 to the negative 100. So that's way smaller. So when I say atoms are occurring at like a high level in the Wolfram model, it's like, yeah, because if the smallest unit of thing in his universe is 10 to the negative 100, that's a lot of those things coming together and having, processes coming together to create something that ends up being the scale of an atom.
Sorry, guy, I'm not following. So you mean the things that are coming together are even smaller than the atom?
Well, so in Wolfram's model, it's the hypergraph stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so he says that all there is these tiny little points in space. He reckons there might be 10 to the 500 of these tiny little points in space, and it's constantly changing.
Right.
And then each of these points, the size of that thing is like 10 to the negative 100. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, if the Planck length, which is the smallest length that we say can exist or has been able to be measured, and I don't think it has been measured, but it's got close. Like I think the smallest measurement we've ever made was like 10 to the negative 26.
Okay.
Then there's a lot of difference between 10 to the negative 100 and 10 to the negative 26 or 10 to the negative 35.
Right. So if you
keep going.
So what the theory is that if we were able to zoom in that much, we would find like other shit, like new shit, like that we didn't know about before. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, that is part of it. But what I'm saying is that when you asked me about the statement, like this is high level in the Wolfram stuff, like you think there's got to be a lot of, like if the littlest thing is 10 to the negative 100, you've got to combine a lot of those little things together to get something at the level of an atom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you.
Like there's a huge amount of those things coming together to create something like a stable structure like an atom.
Gotcha. Yeah. So then it would be safe to assume that there are things that exist that are smaller than atoms that we're not aware about. Sounds like.
Yes, well, we know that, definitely. Yeah, we already know that. Yes, we definitely know that. But that's all I was saying is it's crazy to think that we take atoms as being the basic building blocks. We know that there's smaller things, but it's a useful abstraction to go, okay, at this level, if we start to combine these things together, we got chemistry, we get biology, we get all these things that are important to us, right? But then there's all these other processes happening below that scale that are coming together to then create these things.
It's like a universe. It's like the universe again.
It's like we live in a universe.
It's like we live in a universe, guy. So this is why we talked about the simulation theory a couple podcasts ago. So if you didn't see that episode, check it out. But this could be evidence that we live in a simulation, guy. Like, because it's never ending. The simulation programmed itself in a way, or not itself, or someone programmed it in a way where these humans are never going to figure out like what is what, because we're going to make it so it's infinity, it's expanding, so it's impossible to ever understand any of it. And that's like a way of the simulation disguising itself.
That is definitely one. So, okay, I've just got a rough answer on the size of an oxygen atom. So, and on average, the oxygen atom, like a very rough approximation, is 1.52 times 10 to the negative 10, or 1.52 picometers. Okay,
Picometers.
So 1.52 times 10 to the negative 10. That's an oxygen atom.
Yeah.
And then you think below that, there's like 10 plus orders of magnitude down to the base of what Wolfram says. There's a lot of stuff going on to create that one oxygen. And then you think in us, there's a lot of oxygens, there's a lot of nitrogens, a lot of carbons, and a lot of hydrogens to then come together to create us.
It's wild. It's wild. It's when you really actually think about it, it's fucking wild.
So what I'm trying to get at is like, yeah, it's convenient for us to think about ourselves as one thing, but we're not just one thing. We are many things, like many, many, many things. Like it's a ridiculous amount of things that we are that come together to make us. Right? It's just a convenient level of abstraction to come up with that identity that is pulse group. It's convenient, right? It allows us to sort of sum up all of those crazy interactions, all these different processes going on, and just be like, yo, that's Polska. He's a person. Right? Like it's a much simpler explanation than having to be like, oh, that's this complicated interaction between, all of these different atoms of space doing, just some ridiculous amount of different computations.
I'm a little blown away, guy. I'm a little bit lost for words. It's crazy. It's actually
It's crazy.
really, it is crazy to think about. It is crazy. And it just seems infinite. It seems like 10 to the negative 100 probably might not even be the smallest scale either. It's just like a scale that Wolfram currently has been able to sort of hypothesize about. But if it's ever like legit proven and we can, see things down that far, probably going to be another world of exploration to do, guy.
Yeah. So that is true, but isn't it crazy that all of that stuff can be happening down there, but then at a high level where we sort of exist at, or in between, like we're sort of like the point, we're like a balance point between the tiniest scales and then the biggest scales. Like we exist at this really interesting point, which is about the 1 meter scale.
That's interesting. And you're right. That is interesting.
We don't have to know every single little thing that's happening below us in order to know about what can happen in our world and for us to take action and to do different things. Like we're able to operate without having to know every single intricate detail. I think that's also very interesting.
Wow, that is cool, man. Like, yeah, because with space, it's the exact same thing. I wonder if there's more, like if we're, like, let's just say like we're in the, like if there is a middle, it just sounds like the more we talk about the shit, the more we learn about shit, like everything's infinite. But let's just say there was like a scale and like what you said, humans are like in this middle part. Would you say that there is more things bigger than us or more things smaller than us that exist?
Whoa. I don't know. In what sense? Like more things as in more atoms, more
like scale. Like if we could scale everything, like the smallest thing and then to the biggest thing. Like if we were able to scale everything and have like a page, and we would have like a scale of like the top like 100 things, or not top 100 things. Where would humans fall on that, number line basically? Would we be 50 exactly, like right in the middle, or would we be more towards the top of big things, or would we be more towards the bottom in terms of like if we scaled everything? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we're probably, that's a good question. We might be closer to the bottom than the top. I would say.
I was thinking that too, guy. Like I was thinking that too, because maybe the planet Earth would be more towards the middle, I was thinking.
Yeah. There is a great website. I'll see if I can remember it in a second, but where you can actually zoom through. I might screen share that in a second.
Right. But
yeah, I think you go.
Yeah, that would be cool to see. But like, I'm trying to consider what we don't know. You know what I mean?
That's impossible, bro. That's just Jesus Christ, trying to nuke my brain, son. What the hell? Trying to think about what we can't think about, boy. Okay, dude. All right.
All right, well,
how do you do that, man?
Pull up. Pull that up though. That'd be cool to look at though. I'm just gonna. So our guesses are going to be based on this because it's the only piece of evidence that we currently have. Yo, I'm in a good mood, guy. I'm like more idiotic than normal. This is fun. I think.
Did you have a recent head injury?
No, but it must be because I haven't blazed in a while. Maybe that was it.
I gotta tell you, there's this hilarious comedian called Jared Nathan, and he's like Down syndrome or special needs.
Yes,
he's very funny. He's from Canada. He's a Canadian. He lives in Toronto.
Yeah, he is mad funny.
He was on that Kill Tony, and they have him on doing stand up, and they were like, he was saying how he rollerblades or something like that. And he helps out all the homeless people, so he's giving them free joints and shit. So he's mad funny. Anyway, he's saying how he's like a rollerblader or roller skater, and he's like pretty competitive. And he's like, and he wears a helmet, and they're like, "Are you sure you need to? Maybe you might fall. It might help things out." And I was like, "Holy shit, that's brutal." But he handled it so well, and he roasted them back. I just thought it was one of the funniest things ever. But they were like, "Yeah, maybe your head injury would improve the situation."
I like how I made you think of kid with Down syndrome guy. That's good. But I did like how he was able to handle it too. And that's the thing about comedy, man. Like everyone's welcome. Everyone gets made fun of. It's all good. So it's all gravy.
He is he's very good. Okay, I have this up. Do you want me to screen share?
Yeah, screen share it. By the way, Kill Tony is like saving comedy. He's one of the pioneers.
I agree.
That are like in the game, doing it right. If it wasn't for guys like him, comedy would be dying. But those guys are keeping it alive, man. Because he's just like no holds bar. Like that's how it should be. Should be fun that way.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's do this.
A dope bird.
Okay. Right. So we're going to zoom. We're going to start out.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was making like that screen bigger. Oh, damn. Oh.
This is insane, by the way. This is just mind-blowing.
Black. Whoa. All right.
So we're at 10 to the 25 meters. 10 to the 26.4 meters, 10 to the 27. Wow, that's as far as it goes. Okay, so let's take a little zoom in. So the bar down here is telling us the scale, so 10 to the 27 meters.
Yeah.
Right? And as we go in, it will reduce. So we can see this is the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. Distance to the HDF. This is a gigaparsec, all right? This is the Pisces Cetus Supercluster Complex. Distance to the Great Attractor. Eridanus Supervoid. We can go in, zoom in closer. Oh. Distance to the Shapley Supercluster. This is the Fornax Cluster. We're not even in our galaxy yet. Local group, Virgo cluster. This is just crazy. Distance Earth has traveled relative to Sun. Okay. These are all different clusters.
That's a cool scale.
The dwarf galaxy. Okay, we're going to keep zooming in. Sombrero galaxy. Okay, as we keep going in, keep zooming. We're 10 to the 17.6. Horsehead Nebula. Rotten Egg Nebula. I bet you that stinks. Bobble Nebula. Helix Nebula. Cone Nebula. That's pretty cool. Ant Nebula. It's the biggest ant I've ever seen. Blinking Nebula. Hourglass Nebula. Okay, come on. We've got to just at least get into our galaxy. Distance from Sedna to Sun farthest. Okay. Distance from Comet Hale Bop to Sun farthest. This is how far light travels in a day. Even in just 24 hours, light manages to zoom across the distance of 26 billion kilometers. This is distance. That is distance is further than any human or space probe has ever traveled. So light in just 24 hours.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's why
Okay,
like
let's keep going
traveling at
in.
the speed of light won't get you very far.
Well, it will get you really far, but it also won't in the scheme of things. Like it will, but it won't. Isn't that the craziest thing?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going in. We're getting closer and closer. Distance from Earth to the sun. It's pretty cool. Keep going in. Total human height? 10 gigameters. If all of the 7 billion humans stood on top of one another and the bottom 6.99 billion humans didn't crumple under all the weight, the stack would be approximately 10 million kilometers tall. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
See, strength in numbers. Distance from Earth to the moon. This is Jupiter, so we're getting close. Now, check this out. We've already zoomed in like a shit ton of meters. Uranus. The Minecraft world? What is this? 64 megameters, stretching from the coordinates plus 32 million to negative 32 million. The Minecraft world spans a total of 64,000 kilometers. This world has approximately 130 quadrillion blocks in it. That sure is a lot. Wow, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
All right, let's keep going in. So Earth, how big Asia is. Asia's massive. United States of America, Mercury. Wait, what? 4.2 megameters, 4.9 megameters. Hey, America's pretty big, yeah? Great Wall of China, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Keep going in. California, Great Barrier Reef in Australia, 2.6 megameters. And it's coming back, everybody.
I heard. Is that's for real? Like people have figured out how to get it going again?
No, I think it was just like apparently during Corona, it just started coming back.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how long a marathon is. 42.2 kilometers. So we're getting in. Look at that. Look how like a neutron star is 24 kilometers. Neutron stars are made of tightly packed neutrons. As a result, they are extremely dense. 1 millimeter of neutron star material weighs 1 billion kilograms. That's dense, yo.
Wow.
That's pretty huge. Okay, so we're going in, keep going in. So we're getting down now. We're getting down to like, human scale stuff.
We should take Ronnie
AM
Coleman.
radio wavelength. Yeah.
We should take Ronnie Coleman through this journey.
Yeah, buddy. He would freak out. And A and M are the first and 13th letters of the alphabet. One is a perfect square while 13 is not. We all have our differences and we have to learn to accept them. That's the only way we'll live in harmony. What the hell? What does that even mean?
There's like a cryptic message in there, guy.
Yeah, definitely. Look at the size of this stuff. Like that's the International Space Station, 108 meters. That's pretty big. Look at this giant redwood. I want to go in on that bad boy.
Angel Falls. That's the highest waterfall in the world. And I believe it's in Venezuela, and I believe it's either almost a kilometer high or almost a mile high. I can't remember.
It's almost a kilometer. It's 980 meters. How cool is that?
And the water has such a long fall that by the time it gets to the bottom, it's like mist.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was really old.
Yeah, well, it's older.
So we're about at this scale, right? We're about at the 10 to the 00. Okay, so notice that 10 to the 00. You got humans,
and the biggest was 10 to the 27.5, right?
Yeah, that was the biggest on this one.
Yeah.
So far, yeah.
Well, if you
look at the size of this fucking crab, bro.
Well, why?
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Why is the Jap? I don't get why it's shown like that big. Japanese spider.
It's 3.8 meters.
What the fuck? Where does that exist?
Apparently Japan. They don't all get that big, apparently, but that's a lot of crab meat.
There's a crab that big.
Apparently.
What?
There have been crabs that big.
Oh,
I know,
bin.
mind blowing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think those crabs that big anymore. All right, I got you.
No, I think they are. Apparently they're still around.
What?
They just don't all get that big.
Hold on. What's it called? Japanese spider crab? No, I fucking
Should be
love
called
animal
Japanese
shit.
super crab.
Yeah, I love animal shit. So this is blowing me away right now. Japanese spider crab. Fuck right out of this mouse right now. The Japanese spider crab is a species of marine crab that lives in the waters around Japan. It has the largest known leg span of any arthropod. The Japanese name for the species is Takaashigani. 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 Try to do like a
racist Japanese accent.
Basically what I hear in animes, you know what I mean? When there's when you're watching
I liked it.
Naruto and there's like some intense enemy or some intense guy.
I was like, this guy actually sounds Japanese.
Takaashigani.
That was very good. Okay, so as we zoom in, we sort of see, okay, this is about our scale, right? We've got the largest hailstone. That's pretty massive, 20 centimeters. Kind of cool. Dodo bird's about 1 meter. Okay, so now as we zoom in further and further, we see a basketball, a shrew, a quail egg, a matchstick, a square inch, right? Coffee bean. This is a worm. So common earthworm, US penny, sunflower seed, right? Sleet, a grain of rice, duckweed, an ant, pencil lead. So that's in the tip of your pencil. Okay, what's this thing here? The largest bacteria, right? That's pretty big bacteria, right? Size bigger than an ant. As we keep zooming in, we have a grain of salt, the thickness of paper, grain of sand, a dust mite. These live on you, by the way. Paramecium, an ovum, a human egg. That's how big a human egg is, right? An amoeba. Silt particles. That's that real dusty stuff. So I'm going to assume that a sperm is smaller than an ovum, right?
Oh, yeah.
But look how much smaller,
fucking smaller,
right? A twip,
it's nothing.
thou, white blood cell, red blood cell, X chromosome or Y chromosome.
Look at how the chloroplast is the same size as the red blood cell. Like plant cells and blood cells are the same size. That's interesting.
It's very similar, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
This is the largest virus. 1.5 micrometers. The largest virus, known as pithovirus, was discovered 30 meters underground in the Siberian permafrost. It's thought to have been there for 300,000 years and still able to infect living things. Thankfully, it seems to be only interested in amoeba, so it infects amoeba. But this is the red light wavelength, which is pretty cool. Violet light wavelength, mimivirus, bacteriophage. Look at that fucking crazy ass creature. It's like one of those things I was describing before.
That is cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we get down. This is the ultraviolet wavelength. Smallest thing visible to an optical microscope. So that's pretty tiny. All right, we keep coming in. You've got your hepatitis virus. You've got DNA. You've got HIV. We've got porcine circovirus. We've got alpha helix. A transistor gate in computers.
What?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
This is tiny.
That's fucking
a buckyball,
nuts.
A glucose molecule, very small, an X-ray wavelength. So this is all down at this
So that's
scale.
why it goes through skin so well. So fucking small.
It's tiny, yeah. Phospholipid. So this is very important for all of our cells and cell membranes.
Look at that. It almost looks like the X-ray wavelength could get through phospholipids.
Well, they're definitely at a very similar scale. Similar scale, yeah. Cesium atom. So that's a carbon nanotube. Cesium atom, a water molecule, hydrogen. I'm just going to make this a tad bigger. That helps. Cesium atom, a water molecule, hydrogen atom, carbon atom, helium atom, smallest thing visible to an electron microscope. Okay, this is crazy. This is where it starts to get really insane.
Right, and so like an atom, right? That's the smallest thing we can see. So that makes sense. That's Oh, this is cool, man. Where'd you find this?
All right, ready? Yeah, through explorations.
Nice.
Gamma
Deep
ray
exploration.
wavelength. So, but look at the distance between these things now, right? So it's crazy because we keep zooming in. A uranium nucleus. This is the classical electron that we think. A chlorine nucleus.
How do you think we're able to
nucleus.
scale these things if we're unable to measure it? Like the smallest thing we can measure is an atom or see.
When you say scale, what do you mean?
Well, like near the atom, that it's at the smallest thing that we can detect, right? Or observe.
Yep.
So how do we know the scale of these things? The uranium nucleus, for example.
That's a good question. I think it's largely inferred from other things, but let's get back to that in a little bit.
All right.
There are ways. I know. I'm pretty sure the smallest thing that's ever been measured was about this size. There's other ways to measure things other than just an electron microscope. But this is fascinating, right? So this is a uranium nucleus. So this is your protons and neutrons, okay? And this is why uranium is so powerful, right? Because you can essentially like perturb this or start to play around with this and cause a cascading reaction where these things start to break apart.
Right.
Releasing a lot of energy. Okay, so let's keep going in. We've got a proton and a neutron, very, very small. Length shorter than this are not confirmed.
Okay. So we have
that would be a Planck length.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this would be a Planck length.
Okay.
Okay, so we keep going in. We're only at 10 to the negative 16. Range of the weak force. So just tiny little
range of the weak force.
Yeah. Okay. So then we keep going in. Whoa, it's so far between high energy neutrino, a down quark, up quark, strange quark, charm quark, bottom quark. I wonder if there's a top quark. Top quark.
Oh.
Neutrino. As we're going in, we keep going. Look, but just look at the distance between these things, right? Like we're covering massive, tiny scales.
So,
right, so we still keep going in.
Hypothetically, we're closer.
Still zooming.
We're closer to the larger end.
Maybe, yeah.
It seems like okay. Rodney
according to this scale, yes.
Yeah,
because this scale seems to go further down than it does up in a sense.
Quantum
so this is said to be quantum foam. Okay, so no, the Planck length is down here, so we haven't even got close to measuring the Planck. There's a funny thing I can say about the quantum foam. So David Deutsch says that we're like, there's a bunch of different people that have said this, but we're like, we're essentially a foam or a scum that's formed on the surface of all that's happening in the universe. I'll say that better in a second. But yeah, we emerge from we're a foam essentially. Planck length, that's tiny. This is a string from string theory, and that's about it. There was a better version of this where if you kept zooming in, you actually see like just crazy stuff. But anyway, that's pretty cool. So we're going to do a mega zoom out now. We're going to zoom out and just look at how much is packed into just a tiny amount of space. So there's all of this stuff packed into a tiny amount. We haven't even got to like a measurable length yet. You know what I mean? Like, here we go. There's a transistor gate. So there's all of that stuff in there. There's just all of this crazy process. Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of those things happening just to get one of these. Isn't that crazy?
Guys, it is really mind-blowing.
Yeah. So then the last thing I wanted to do was, but in this Wolfram model, like essentially, all the universe is just performing computations, right? Or, we can at least model the universe through computations. And so I just wanted to have a quick look at like, if we've got that many atoms in our body and each different, interaction with different things could be considered as a computation, how many computations is the human body performing on a per second or per minute kind of basis? I think we're going to keep it at second just because the number is a huge amount. So let's do human body computation. So at a cellular level, and this is all just approximate numbers, we've got gene expression. So the number of cells is 30 times 10 to the 12, which is 30 trillion. Average number of genes expressed per cell is about 20,000. So computations, that's 3 times 10 to the 12 times 20,000. We've got metabolic reactions. So there's the same 3 times 10 to the 12 number of cells. Average number of reactions per second per cell is about 1,000. So 30 times 10 to the 12 times 1,000. We've got signal transduction. So the number of cells again. And then we've got the average number of signaling events per second is about 100. So 3 times 10 to the 12 times 100. We're at the organ level, we've got neurons in the brain. So roughly there's about 86 times 10 to the 9 or 86 billion neurons. Average number of synapses per neuron, we say there's on average is about 5,000. Average firing rate is about 200 hertz. So that's 86 times 10 to the 9 times 5,000 times 200. We've got our heartbeat. Our heart on average beats, 1 beat per second, involving about 10 to the 6 or 1 million computations for electrical and mechanical coordination, 1 times 10 to the 6. We've got our digestive system doing a whole bunch of computations as well. So let's assume 10 to the 6 or 1 million computations for breaking down food and absorbing nutrients per second. That's probably massively underdone. Systemic level. So homeostasis, let's assume 10 to the 8. Or 100 million computations per second for systemic regulation. Muscle movements, let's assume 10 to the 7 or 10 million computations for coordinated muscle movements per second. That's probably a gross underestimation as well. And then the immune system, about 10 to the 7. So the estimated total number of computations per second occurring in the human body based on the rough calculations is approximately 7.19 times 10 to the 17 computations per second. Per second. Per second. Per second. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on.
Yo, there is a lot going on, though. Straight up. That's crazy. That's mad funny.
So yeah, what makes up a human being? What makes up a person? Well, it depends how you choose to look at it, right? Like you can pick lots of different levels of abstraction. You can pick lots of different scales to discuss about this. But the reality is there isn't like a right way to do it. There's many different ways that you can look at this. And the way you choose to look at it will sort of define what you see. And I think that's a very interesting thing. This is true. Well, not necessarily. It seems to be true across many different things. But like you can look at it through how many atoms we're made up of, how many different cells we're made up of, the different bacteria that exist on us at different times. You can look at the processes that make up the human. You can look at all of these different things. You can look at a human being in its social setting. You can look at a human being geographically. There's all these different ways you can look and try to understand what a human is. But the answer is there are many different ways to look at it. And the different ways you choose will define what you sort of find out about it. But isn't that just a crazy thing?
I love it, man.
Like there is no right or wrong way. Like I bet a lot of the way I think we typically think about being a human being is very efficient, right? We do away with all of this crazy amount of computations and the amount of atoms and all the rest of it. Like it's not necessarily practical to think of a human being in that regard. But sometimes taking that lens and looking and exploring can also illuminate different things that you were otherwise sort of were hidden from you by taking that high level abstraction. So for us, it's easy for me to just be like, Pulse is a human, Pulse is like guy, he's not, all these different things I can say about you. All these different things I can say about you. And it's very convenient, right? It's a very nice level of abstraction to discuss most of these things. But that doesn't mean that there aren't all these other things happening underneath and below and at different scales.
All right, Guy. That's a wrap. Good job, Roops. And I'm not going to ask anybody for anything at the end here, Guy.
You're not going to beg?
No, no, no.
Well, I'm glad you're not going to beg.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. So yeah, I just thought interesting foray into that sort of idea of looking at things. It's crazy to think that like we are the sum total of like so much stuff happening. And then we're just one thing. And then you think that there's 8 billion other people here that are all got that much stuff happening. And then we're all getting together. Okay, before this gets crazy, that just leave that in your mind. Like one person is made up of all of this craziness. And then there's 8 billion of us doing all these other crazy things. It's a lot of stuff going on. And that's my finishing concluded statement. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening. Oscar, hope you have a lovely night. Enjoy these mind-expanding thoughts as you go to bed.
Thank you.
You can get to sleep.
Thank you.
And thanks for sticking with us and watching to the end. Wherever you are, have a nice day, morning, evening, and good night.
Love you, bro. Peace.
Love you too, guy. Peace.